didn't look like we were going to get through until about 5 or 6 this afternoon. So, and we've got a nice group of committee members here. I appreciate them coming in this early. Before we get started, let's have a moment of prayer. Gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for another day. We ask that you watch over us and guide us as we go about doing good things for the people of the state of Georgia. We ask that you put in our minds and in our hearts and in our voices the things that you feel are pleasing to us. And when this meeting is over with, we ask that you watch over us as we go back about our business and head home to our families. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Chair recognizes Representative Kirby.
Mr. Chairman, I move we take House Bill 398 off the table.
I have a motion that we take 389 off the table in a second. Is there any discussion on that? All those in favor of the motion, if you would, raise your hand. Motion carries. House Bill 389 is off the table. 398, excuse me. Yeah. Yeah, me too. Yeah, 389 off the table too. Okay. We have 389 off the table. We also have 98. Excuse me. Let me circle that right now.
It is early, Mr. Chairman.
It is early. 398 off the table, and we have a sub in your folder, committee. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask that the committee be at ease for just a few minutes to give committee members a chance to look over the sub, and that will give the people in the audience as well a chance to look over the sub. We have a sign-up sheet up here on the corner desk if you would like to speak. We are going, because of other committee meetings that are meeting at 9 and us going in at 10, we're going to have a limit today depending on the number of people that want to speak. So we're going to be at ease for just a few minutes while the committee members and the audience look over the sub for just a few minutes. Representative Kirby, while we're looking over this, why don't you go ahead and, since you were you were the main worker on the sub along with Chairman Maxwell, if you would give us kind of an overview of what we're looking at on House Bill 398 sub, please.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As far as the sub, all the sub does is create, it takes our personal care licensure term and calls it licensed residential living level 1. It takes the assisted living community licensure term and calls it licensed residential living level 2. It does not affect the nursing home or skilled care licensure because that is This bill went to 33 pages of a cross-reference of the code for all the times that was used. Nursing home or skilled care is throughout so many places in the code. It'd take us probably 3 years to find every place that was covered. So that's all the substitute bill does to address the issue that Chairman Maxwell had put in his original bill. And as we go through it, I've got some notes, and I can explain what all those are now, or wait, whatever the chair would wish me to do, sir.
Why don't we go ahead and you kind of explain some of the changes, and we can kind of make notes, and the people out in the audience can look it over as well as you go forward.
All right. I'll be happy to. Thank you, sir. What we found out very simply is assisted living and assisted living facilities, and the terminology is all over the board. On that first page of notes, you'll see in that first section in bold print, it is at the state level. Each state's licensed agency has its own definition of the term to use to describe assisted living. Because the term assisted living has not been defined in some states, it's often a marketing term used by a variety of senior living communities, licensed or unlicensed. I found a section on regulatory review from the states, and again, they talk about the varying laws and regulations affect assisted living settings, have created a diverse and fluid operating environment for providers and a mixed terminology, settings, and available services for consumers. This is the same discussion going on throughout the country in several state houses, and if you look down at the very bottom of that first page, these are, besides assisted living, they use assisted living or assisted care living facilities, residential care, boarding home, basic care facility, community resident, enriched housing program, I like that one, home for the aged, personal care home, shared housing establishment, and adult residential care facility. Also, several states have different levels that they put in there as well. But all these mean the same thing, and they mean different things depending on what state you're in. I specifically looked at our neighbors to the south in Florida, not to make light of the subject, but we do know there's a large elderly population that's moved down to Florida. And under their term assisted living, to save paper, the supervision, they even have requirements for social and leisure activities for the residents. But you get down to activities of daily living, and they just have the one sentence: a facility shall offer supervision or assistance with activities of daily living as needed by each resident. Residents shall be encouraged to be as independent as possible in performing ADLs or activities of daily living. Their nursing, if they contract with a nurse, they put in a whole other set of standards other than vital signs and giving enemas is the only thing they can do without meeting their other regulations they put in elsewhere in their code. Washington's Administration on Aging didn't give us any help. You see right in the title, they call it assisted living, then also called residential care. But they did put in there they may need help with dressing, bathing, eating, or using the bathroom, but they don't need full-time nursing care. So again, the Administration on Aging comes back with basically the definition we used to use with what we were calling personal care homes under assisted living or residential care. There is the Assisted Living Federation of America, ALFA. Look to see if they would give us any help, and again, they talk about the different terms, and it's all state informed. But I think one thing is very important that they do say, and I highlighted that right in the middle of that page, where they support the need for every community to provide a consumer-friendly disclosure document that is distributed to prospective residents and family. This disclosure statement should include information about services, costs, limitations on care, delivery, and move-in, move-out processes. And I think that's really something that Chairman Maxwell and I discussed, that we'd certainly urge any businesses in Georgia involved in this elder care to make sure they're doing that, because that's really the crux of the issue. Because the next page is two facilities in Georgia, and I changed the names and just pulled this right. I just did a search for assisted living. If I was looking for a place for my folks, I wouldn't know to Google personal care or enriched housing or anything else. I'd probably look for assisted living. These happen to both be personal care licensure places. And if you look down through there, especially that first one, I think does a good job on looking at their services, on exactly what they do on personal care assistance for residents who need help with daily routines as dressing, bathing, grooming, cleaning, and other tasks. They call themselves, and I changed the name to XYZ instead of theirs for assisted living. The bottom one, a small paragraph from another one I found. Again, they talk about the personal care services of bathing, dressing, medication reminders, rather activity, not administration. But the next to the last line is something I think that this bill is really trying to address, where it says their assisted living is not only home-like, resident-centered alternative to assisted living facility. And that's the confusion that we're trying to get around. How is an assisted living an alternative to an assisted living facility? And that's what the Senate Bill 178 caused. And you see on the last page, the agreed-on points, as I met with the representatives in the industry, the only thing they somewhat agree on is we need 3 separate licensure levels. Some actually think we need a 4th one, but aren't wanting to go down that road right now. But what we call them, the analogy I've used is it's kind of like a fleas arguing who owns the dog. They all want it, and they don't want to yield in any direction. So the best we could do is probably about 2.5 out of 4 came up with the licensed residential living level 1 and level 2, and leave the nursing facilities or skilled nursing facilities alone.
Thank you, Representative Kirby. Chairman Maxwell, would you like to come up and
If I'd have known how many is going to be here, I'd have tried to get some coffee or something. Breakfast for us. Appreciate you coming to me at 8 o'clock. I really do. Appreciate your interest in this bill. And I want to thank Representative Kirby on this. He has worked, absolutely above and beyond the call of duty on this. Actually, I wish I could have got my name off this bill and let him carry the thing, because he knows he knows more about this now than he ever hoped to know, I think, and more than I thought I would know about it. What started out as just a simple little one-page bill just to say we got 2,203 businesses in the state of Georgia that 6 will be penalized because the Department of Community Health did what I feel like is a, let me phase this differently than what I was going to say. Not an adequate job in coming up with their rules and regulations. I've said that a little differently to some folks, but I'll just say adequate, I think, in harming 2,203 businesses to a good of 6 companies coming in. All we're trying to do is protect these guys have been doing business in the state for a number of years. As you can see from Representative Kirby's information, what he's come up with, it is all over the board out here. That sheet that he gave you, I Googled assisted living facilities in the state of Georgia. They just keep rolling up. That's just a generic term, but we're trying to take and let that be patented or copyrighted for 6 different businesses to me that we shouldn't do. That ALPHA, the Assisted Living Federation of America, they have nothing in place that defines what a real assisted living program is. And on that bottom page that he was reading a while ago, I found it interesting. Assisted living facility, that ABC senior living facility, is a completely different option for a senior who doesn't require intensive skilled nursing care, which is what the whole problem is. When Senate Bill 178 was passed the other year, they put in the skilled nursing. They are now, out of the 2,203 personal care homes in Georgia, only 12% are even large enough to comply with the new term assisted living communities or assisted living care, and many of those 12% will not be able to apply for the new nomenclature because of the fire code. That's the 2 things that they're looking at. The question came up the other week: what's the difference? The level of nursing care and the fire code. That's basically it. So all we're asking you to do, and I think his bill, it morphed into 30 pages, but all he's doing is trying to go in here and make sure where it says personal care homes and assisted living homes, they're now the 2 terms, level 1 and level 2. If that'll get the job done for the committee, I'm completely happy with it. All we're trying to do is to take those 2,203 homes that we're losing state affairs in, Mr. Chairman. I'll come back with any questions or answer any questions.
Does any member of the committee have a question for Chairman Maxwell? Number 10.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, everyone. Hello, sir. How are you? Question for you. So with this new bill and with the new language that's in this, are we getting rid of the term assisted living communities now?
No,
That-
they can still use that. They're just going to be for licensing purposes. Is what the Department of Community Health defines assisted living communities and assisted living care. They were saying that you had to be one of these assisted communities. You had to be the skilled nursing and you need to bypass. We're calling them a level 2. They're going to be level 2 residential, licensed residential level 1 facility is the personal care home. Licensed residential level 2 now will be the assisted living community, the assisted living care.
Okay. So when we talked about, if I may ask a second question, sir? When we talked about this last week, a lot of it was in the marketing and people having to change their names and update their names. And so now with this new particular bill, will the personal care homes have to list licensed residential living level 1 anywhere on their, how are people gonna know that that's what they're contacting?
That's going to be through the licensure at the Department of Community Health, the way I understand it, and their brochure that they put out specifies what level of treatment they give, whether it's skilled nursing care or not. When the people Google assisted living care, they'll still bring up personal care homes, and from what I understand, and the way we want to go forward with that licensure level, strictly is for the Department of Community Health to their supplies for their
Okay.
license.
So this is not something that the public themselves are gonna know what the difference in it. This is
They
simply
know
for
what-
in-house.
For the biggest confusion, I believe, some of the people behind me is the Department of Community Health. That's the issue.
I guess I'm concerned that our people who are searching for this type of care are still not going to know the difference between the two. That's what I was trying to get at, trying to get an understanding of that.
Countrywide, that's what
Right.
pointed out to us here.
Yeah, I was hoping we would have something today that cleared that up. That's what I'm trying to determine is,
Cleared up, but apparently now that is
okay,
practically a possibility because countrywide is still.
gotcha. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Number 11.
So this in no ways mandates in that they market the term level 1 and level 2. All right, thank you.
Any other questions for Chairman Maxwell?
Thank you again for being here. Okay, so if there's no way mandate that they use level 1 or level 2, does that mean that everything can still just stay the same?
They can continue to use from assisted living to the personal care home. What they've done for 30 years.
Go ahead.
Another question. Okay, so where is the change then if that was the problem last week? So did anything change within the bill?
The change is going to be with the Department of Community Health, the license procedure, they're going to license level 1 and level 2.
Okay.
What happened before was the Department of Community Health said you had to be licensed as an assisted living community or assisted living care home, and nobody else could use this term assisted living. Those who have been using it for 30 years now that they're using that term. So it's strictly the Department of Community Health, and if they had come to us and said we can make these changes through rules and regulations, the changes they passed last year, what brought this whole situation up, I think they could have fairly easily made a change in the rules and regulations, and now we have to fill all this through.
Any other questions for Chairman Maxwell? Okay, thank you. We have several people that are signed up to speak. If you would, limit your remarks to no more than 5 minutes. Skin Edge.
I'll be brief. We spoke last week about this issue. First of all, I want to thank Chairman Maxwell and Representative Kirby. They have spent a lot of time working on this, and they've been open and accessible and available, and we've spent a lot of time talking with them. Unfortunately, we sort of come to the conclusion this is one we're just going to have to disagree on. And the bottom line is, I don't think, despite going from a one-page bill to a 30-page bill, this really clears up the problem that we were talking about last week. If you look at the substitute on page 6, it sets out what you have to do to be licensed as a licensed residential level 1 facility. Then on page 10, it talks about level 2 facility, what you have to do to be licensed as that. So the substitute acknowledges there are differences, there are distinctions, there are differences in level of care between level 1 and level 2. Chairman Maxwell touched on that a little bit, talking about fire code differences, which are very, very important for individual safety. Differences in medication, what you can administer, what you can't between the two levels, and so forth. We talked a lot about that last week. There are distinctions and differences between these two levels. Yet despite that fact, really the guts of the bill are on page 2 at the top, and it says nothing in this subparagraph will prohibit a licensed residential level 1 facility from using the term licensed residential level 2 in describing its services. So if I'm a level 1 under this bill, if I'm a level 1, which is which used to be, or under the current law, a personal care home, if I'm a level 1, I can call myself a level 2, even though the law says level 1s and level 2s are different. Even this substitute says level 1s and level 2 are different. But then it goes on to say, provided no place shall use the term licensed level 2 unless it is licensed as a licensed residential level 2. So in one sentence it says, if I'm a level 1, I can call myself a level 2. But right below that it says, nobody can call themselves a level 2 unless they are a level 2. I don't understand that. And the bottom line, Representative Bell, going back to your question, I frankly think we're the same place we were last week. I think the residents of the state, the people who are looking to locate in one of these facilities, frankly, are going to be confused. You can call yourself one thing when you're not. I think it's going to be, frankly, just too much confusion, and it doesn't solve the situation. It ought to, frankly, state that the current law on the personal care, assisted living makes us distinction. There's a distinction because it's a difference of what they can do and the services they can provide. So we appreciate the committee's consideration. We would ask that the main bill as well as substitute be held. We're going from something that was worked on for years and years and years and passed with everyone at the table, including the personal care homes. We're going from a one-page bill to a 30-page bill. I think it's going to result in more confusion to the public. Thank you. Mr. Chairman,
Anyone have any questions? Anyone have any questions for Mr. Edge? Okay, thank you. Sarah Ralston. Ms. Ralston, before you get started, Representative Kirby.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, as the chair is aware, we've got this bill done from Ledge Council at 3:30 on Saturday afternoon, and I know we've already been showed a typo on line 82 where 1 should be 2. I believe as Skin has pointed out, they've got this one in here backwards, but it's I don't think, as I read through it over and over, there may be some others that come up. We just need to make sure we're identifying those and get that amended before we move too far.
Okay, all right. Ms. Ralston.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Sarah Ralston, representing Georgia Healthcare Association, nursing homes, assisted living, and personal care homes. I want to thank the author for working on this bill, and also Representative Kirby put a lot of effort into this and brought us all to the table. Unfortunately, I have to echo Mr. Edge's comments that we still stand in opposition to this bill. We think it leaves us with the same state of confusion, if not more so. For the consumer, this changes nothing. They will have no clue what is licensed as what, and And I think, yeah, it leaves us in the same predicament that we were in. And I don't believe it's the smartest thing to do to rush something through that was worked on for 16 plus years in about 5 days.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Ms. Ralston? What number, 83?
3.
Okay.
Oh,
All right.
that's a good one. Okay, Ms. Austin, thank you for being here this morning. So, what type of language do you think will help clarify this? To help clarify this?
I think you have to prohibit different licensure categories from using certain terms. Right now, as this is, the two personal care home or level 1 and level 2 will still be assisted living all in one group in the public one. So I don't have specific language. I think you just have to clarify it for the public. This doesn't do that, in my opinion.
Any other questions? Ms. Ralston, I wanted to ask a question. Were you able to sit down with Representative Kirby the other day and discuss what y'all thought that ought to be part of the bill and what ought to be left out of the bill?
He gave us a copy of what he was proposing, and we have to say that we have to approve.
Okay, so anything that's not status quo, y'all are opposed to, correct?
No, that's not true at all. I just think that there has to be some clarification marketing-wise, and this does not do that.
Number 11.
So I just want to make sure I understand where you're coming from. You want to mandate what it can be marketed and what cannot be marketed with regards to personal care homes, assisted living, and such. Is that what I'm hearing?
I think that needs to be clarified.
Any other questions? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. We got number 10 wanting to ask a question.
I'd just like to ask a follow-up question. And so, for me, what this feels like is we're talking about the livelihood of businesses that have been in existence, and I totally understand that. And for me, it's a hard situation to tell 2,000 businesses that they now have to change everything. But when I put that up against personal care and the actual patient, so I'm still hearing that it's a marketing issue as opposed to a provider of care issue. Would you say that that's a true statement?
I think that's what it ultimately comes down to.
Thank you.
Number 6.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Would the amount of money that you receive for the different levels of care, would you be able to identify it by that? So,
I'm sorry. I don't
like, okay, if it's assisted living, there's one amount of money, and if it's a nursing home, you have to do all of the care. You know, we have facilities where people go and they only need a little bit of assistance, okay? And they really get nothing for the money except medicine time. And there's nobody at the door. Then you have another facility where you have people around the clock. Can you identify it maybe by the level of care like that? And the money, because the money is what we're talking about. People want to exist. So if you pay $1 here, $20 here, and $30 here, could you be able to identify it by the amount of money that you pay them? Maybe I'm asking the wrong person. Anybody can help me with
I'm
this?
sorry. I'm not
Skin?
following.
Okay, thank you, baby. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Sharon, the way you worded that, though, a level 1 cannot market itself as level 2, and that's the part we're going to correct in our motion here in a minute. If you're a level 1, you can market it as level 1, and that meets the same requirements of what we call a personal care home today. A level 2 can market itself as a level 2. Same requirements. We don't change any of the requirements. What we call in 178 an assisted living community. So the marketing and as that encouraging them to make sure they're notifying them the service has not changed. They can't market themselves as something they're not. They can't tell them that they're a skilled nursing facility when they're a licensed residential living level 1 home. So it does clear that up.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you, Ms. Robinson. Stephen Neff.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Stephen Neff, representing the Assisted Living Association of Georgia and the Georgia Association of Community Care Providers. As previously, I think my first general comment would be, with all due respect to my colleagues, we went from a 2-page bill to a 33-page bill, but in essence, that shouldn't convolute the issue that we're being able to discuss here today, as we have been at the previous meeting, which is all of us and all of us in this room have discussed this for 16 years. We all know what the terms mean. We know what the levels are. If anything, just trying to confuse y'all shouldn't be fairness to the issue. We're just trying to add levels of the way they are now. Personal care home will be called residential living, a licensed residential living level facility 1. What is now assisted living community, as of Senate Bill 178, would become residential living, licensed residential living level 2, and then the nursing home would stay just the same. We know what the scope of the practice is in each one of those. All we're trying to do is allow, as 40 other states do, that all of those that are within this level 1 and 2 could use the term assisted living. Pretty simple issue, although it did have to go because you have to change all the words. It makes the bill look a lot longer, but I think that's the main point of what we're trying to do today. With regards to the funding question, if I might, the real difference there is the difference really in Medicaid and private pay, in my opinion. Anything under 25 beds is allowed to charge Medicaid in the state of Georgia today. Anything over has to be private pay. With regards to what the level 2 is now, as is defined in scope, it's still only for private pay people. It won't touch any of the little homes. They're not allowed to use, to be in that level in the first place. So, that's the real funding. The funding issue for 25 and above is all private pay. And hopefully that would clarify how, I don't know, it doesn't look like maybe it does. But basically Medicaid is only for 25 above. The history of that in the state has been to keep from anybody over 25 beds charging Medicaid so that you felt like you were housing elderly people in big, large facilities, and that, I think, was the reason that was established many years ago.
Any questions for Mr. Neff? Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Chairman Maxwell, you're back up. Yes, sir. Yeah. If you'll come up to the mic.
Committee and especially Representative Kirby, because as Ms. Ralston pointed out, he has put a lot of time into this. I did want to just address a couple of quick things. One, we're not rushing into this. This thing's been under discussion for a year, and it's really to correct something that keeps the consumer from recognizing what assisted living is. It was confusing to begin with, so we're not rushing into this, and we're basically keeping about 10% of the market for reserving a term that is used by what personal care homes provide services for. And the other thing I would like to point out is to respond to Representative Bell's question. Yes, they're both. The point of this is that you can both levels can continue to use the term assisted living, but the whole point is level 1 and level 2 is the consumer will know that if it's a level 1, that's not going to be the same extent of services as level 2. And so to answer Ms. Teague's concern, when you go looking for a residence, you know what kind of services you're looking for. And for instance, it may be Mr. Day will be able to provide one, and your loved one may need more help with medications, and you'll have to say, no, you need to go to a level 2 residence. that's really all I wanted to say, and I hope that clears things up. And we think this is a fair compromise and protects the consumer by allowing them to understand how to look for services they need.
All right, any questions? Okay. Chairman Maxwell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee again. I didn't come to the session this year intending to get involved with this. It came up because of the rules and regulations, again, that was passed by the Department of Community Health. They say by May the 1st, these people can no longer use the term assisted living in these 2,200 homes that have been working for the last 30 years. That's the impetus in trying to get this passed this year, trying to stop what I believe is an egregious act that's been perpetrated on these other homes. You've heard the testimony, and I appreciate Mr. Edge pointing out on line 29 that we were going to amend that to a level 1. That is a typo that was recognized, I think Mr. Kirby said, on another line. I'm going to let you take care of that. But we're asking this bill to be passed today. If there's any other questions, I'll try to answer them. But it's been as discussed, assisted living is a generic term that's used countrywide. There's no one that should have the copyright or ability to take that term and use it for, I think, very small minority of businesses. So we're trying to protect these others that have been doing this for a number of years, and that's what this bill is about. And the only reason I got involved is because I realized there was a problem that had been had come up after the Department of Community Health issued the regulations. So that's what we're trying to solve together, Mr. Chairman. And again, thank you for your time, and I appreciate Mr. Kirby's report on this.
Any other questions for Chairman Maxwell? Thanks, sir. We now have this before the committee. I'll entertain a motion as far as the bill is concerned. We have a motion of due pass. Is there a second? We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Number 12.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, thank you. On page 2, starting on the end of line 27, where it talks about nothing in this subparagraph, the new wording that's all underlined, that goes back to before we changed the names where they could use the wording personal care home in advertising for the assisted living communities. And none of that is needed in this bill, so therefore I would move that we amend this by eliminating lines 28 through 33, and then the last 3 words on the start of on the end of line 27. That would correct that confusion, and it's not needed and doesn't affect what we're trying to do and what this bill should be doing. And then on line 80.
Hold up just a second. So your amendment that you're stating would be on page 2, starting at the word nothing on line 27, and going to line 33 to the period there. You're saying strike that.
Correct.
All right.
And then on
okay, that's amendment 1.
Okay.
All right. All right, we have a motion on that. We have a second. All right, your second amendment.
On page 3, line 82, the number 1 should be a number 2. That should read licensed residential living level 2.
Okay. So that the committee is clear on line 82. The number 1 should be changed to a number 2. Is that in the form of a motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I have a second? Have a second on that, so that's amendment 2. Anything else, Representative Kirby?
No, sir.
Representative Spencer? Okay, passes. Number 10.
Thank you, sir. So I've thought about this a lot this particular weekend, and unfortunately, I had to make a decision about placing someone, a family member. this weekend. I've also worked as a physician practice manager for Emory for several years, and so I understand the confusion that comes up when people are in need and they call and they have an idea of what they need, but sometimes we have to help them fully understand where they need to go. I hate that this has come down to having to adjust the income and the money flow of 2,000 plus businesses in Georgia, but I personally feel like I can't make a decision of money versus care, and so for that reason I'm going to have to do a no vote on this particular bill. But I do want you all to understand that I fully thought about this weekend, and having to find that place for my aunt who recently had a stroke and figuring out where she needs to go really pushed me to make this decision. So I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate all the conversations we've had.
Appreciate your comments. Do I have anyone else that would like to amend or make a statement about the bill? Okay, we have two amendments before the committee. We're going to take them in reverse order. Amendment 2, found on page 3, line 82, would change the number 1 to a number 2. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the amendment, if you would raise your hand. All right. Those opposed? The amendment passes. First Amendment. So that the committee fully understands the change of the wording on page 2, starting on line 27 with the word nothing, and going to line 33 to the period, striking that whole underlined section there. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the amendment, you would show by raising your hand. All opposed? Amendment passes. Is there any further discussion about the bill as amended? So, Representative Kirby, you will need to change your motion to a do pass as amended.
Yes, sir. I'll change my motion to do pass as amended.
We have a motion. I have a second on as amended. We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on the bill? Before we vote on this, I want everybody to understand, I don't know whether we've gotten any closer than what we wanted to be in the first place. I think that the legislation a couple of years ago was had some unintended consequences, and this bill is an attempt to rectify those consequences. Whether it does or not, I guess we'll see later on. I do want to thank everybody for coming today. I thank the committee for coming early, and I thank all the people that came in the audience for coming. With that said, we're ready to vote. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the passage of House Bill 398 as amended, if you would raise your hand. All opposed, like sign. The motion carries. The bill is passed to the Rules Committee. Again, my thanks. Number 10, you had a comment? Okay, sorry. All right. Again, I thank the committee for coming this morning. I know it was early. I thank everybody in the audience for coming. This meeting is adjourned.